I just walked through the Museum of the Bible in Washington. That was very cool. It's a very cool museum.
So the structure, that's what the Bible
Yeah, it's what
provides.
I figured out. I just figured this out this week.
The Bible, particularly the Old Testament, has long been a cornerstone of religious belief and cultural history. But what if there were hidden layers of meaning that had been overlooked for millennia? Well, we know that the current version of the Bible is only a fraction of the religious literature available in the Christian world, in the centuries following the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ. This canonical version skips many books that were deemed authoritative in several segments of the Christian world. What does this mean? Well, at the very least, part of the truth is still out there, unstudied, unappreciated. This is what the guests at the Joe Rogan Experience podcast unveiled recently as they discussed this 3,000-year-old Bible that revealed a terrifying secret about human existence. So, what is this long-lost literature and what does it tell us? Let's get straight to it. Rethinking the Bible and the canon. For centuries, the Bible has been regarded as the definitive source of divine wisdom. However, this view becomes more complex when we step back and question the very foundations of what we know. What if the Bible, in its canonical form, doesn't contain all the truths it could? What if the exclusion of certain texts is not merely due to divine will, but to human judgment? This is not conjecture. We know for a fact that this is exactly what happened in the 4th century AD. The process of canonization was influenced by politics, power, and the desire to maintain religious orthodoxy. As a result, the traditional interpretations of the Bible often frame human actions and morality as a stark dichotomy of good versus evil, but this oversimplification may ignore deeper, more nuanced understandings. When we critically examine the Bible, we see the struggle to reconcile humanity's flaws with divine expectations. There is much left unsaid, unexplored, and unaddressed. Today, we'll say, explore and address. One of the most intriguing aspects of this rethinking is the question of the Bible's canonization, the process by which certain books were included while others were excluded. For example, the Book of Daniel, though part of the Christian Bible, only includes a portion of the prophetic visions Daniel is said to have received. Similarly, the Book of Enoch, a revered text in early Christian and Jewish traditions, was deliberately left out of the canon despite its widespread influence and profound theological implications. The exclusion of such texts raises fundamental questions. Was it an effort to suppress potentially disruptive ideas? Was it an attempt to create a cohesive narrative that could more easily be controlled and taught across centuries? Well, it's impossible to know what our ancestors wanted to do. But we can finally explore the parts of the religious literature that they left out. Daniel's story and the captivity of Israel. Daniel's story, though not included in the Hebrew Bible's canon for all traditions, offers a profound narrative that resonates deeply with themes of faith, resilience, and divine wisdom amidst adversity. Set against the backdrop of a tumultuous historical period, Daniel's life begins with the fall of the Kingdom of Judah and the devastating siege of Jerusalem by the Babylonians, led by King Nebuchadnezzar. This marks the beginning of Israel's captivity, a pivotal moment in biblical history when the Jewish people were uprooted from their homeland and exiled to a foreign land, far from the temple and the promises they had held dear for centuries. But that's not all. Sacred items from the Holy Temple in Jerusalem were seized and brought to Babylon. These events were viewed as the fulfillment of prophetic warnings about Israel's disobedience to God, and they signaled the rise of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar, ever strategic and forward-thinking, sought to secure Babylon's dominance by incorporating the best and brightest from conquered nations into his court. As part of this, he ordered the capture of select young Israelites, including Daniel, Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, who were chosen for their intelligence, beauty, and potential. These young men were taken to the heart of Babylon to undergo training in the ways of the Babylonians, prepared for service in the king's court. The young Israelites were given new Babylonian names. Daniel became Belteshazzar, Hananiah became Shadrach, Azariah became Meshach, and Mishael became Abednego. Despite this, they remained steadfast in their faith, knowing that their identity, both as Israelites and as servants of the one true God, could not be changed by mere names. This fact was only fully displayed when Daniel and his friends refused to eat the king's rich food, as it involved items that were against their religious dietary laws. In response to this, Daniel proposed a bold 10-day test. Instead of partaking in the king's royal fare, he and his companions would eat only vegetables and drink water. After the 10-day period, the results were astonishing. Daniel and his friends appeared healthier, more vibrant, and more capable than their peers who had eaten the royal food. Nebuchadnezzar, impressed by the results, gave his approval to their simpler diet, and the young men continued their training. As they progressed, Daniel and his friends excelled in intellectual pursuits and mystical teachings, outshining others in the royal court. Daniel, in particular, began to earn recognition for his supernatural wisdom, which was a source of influence and prominence in the Babylonian court. This recognition reached a peak when King Nebuchadnezzar, troubled by a deeply unsettling dream, sought an interpretation that no one could provide. Nebuchadnezzar demanded that his wise men not only interpret the dream, but first recount the very details of the dream itself, at the pain of death. This, of course, seemed impossible. Daniel, ever the faithful servant, requested 3 days to solve the mystery, seeking divine intervention to reveal the truth. During this time, Daniel and his friends fervently prayed, and God responded by revealing the king's dream to Daniel. The next day, Daniel presented himself before the king and, with the wisdom granted to him, recounted the dream and its interpretation. Nebuchadnezzar's dream involved a colossal statue with a head made of gold, a chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of bronze, legs of iron, and feet of clay and iron. Daniel explained that the statue symbolized a succession of kingdoms, with each material representing a different empire. The head of gold represented Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian Empire. However, the dream also foretold the eventual decline of these empires, with each subsequent kingdom being weaker and less durable than the one before it. The feet of clay and iron, a mixture of strong and fragile elements, symbolized a future kingdom that would be divided and unstable. Just as Daniel had predicted, the Babylonian Empire eventually fell to the Persian Empire, marking the beginning of the decline foretold in the vision. The successive empires, Persia, Greece, and Rome, each grew weaker and more fragmented over time, with the Roman Empire eventually splitting. One can only try to imagine why such rich literature would be left out of the canon. But wait, there's more. The story of Susannas Trial. Another tale excluded from the canon is that of Susanna, talking of a time in Israel's history when justice was often swayed by the influence of powerful men and corrupt elders. Here's how it goes. Susanna, a woman known for her beauty and virtue, was admired by all who knew her. Her story, however, is tainted by the malicious envy of two elders, men who held positions of power and authority within the community. These elders, unable to control their desire for her, became consumed with lust and plotted to accuse her of a crime she did not commit. They falsely accused Susanna of committing adultery with a young man, a crime that would result in her execution. They knew that their word would be trusted, as they held esteemed positions in society. But Susanna, a woman of great integrity and virtue, refused to be swayed by their threats. The two elders, despite being men of authority, were driven by their desires and were willing to betray the very principles of justice for their envy. Their false testimony was enough to trigger an immediate trial, and Susanna, despite her innocence, was accused and sentenced to death. The legal process itself was deeply flawed. As Susanna stood accused, the court seemed eager to carry out the death sentence, offering no true defense for the woman whose character had been so unfairly smeared. At that moment, Susanna's life hung in the balance, and the unthinkable seemed inevitable. This was until a voice of reason and justice emerged from the crowd. That voice came from none other than Daniel, who intervened, challenging the corrupt testimonies of the elders. Of course, this story takes place before the events involving King Nebuchadnezzar, and interestingly, it gives us a whole new perspective on the corruption of Israel that led to its fall. Getting back to the story, Daniel proposed a brilliant test to expose the elders' lies. He suggested that the two men be separated and questioned individually. In a legal system that too often disregarded the truth, Daniel's challenge to the elders was bold and revolutionary. When the two elders were questioned separately, their testimonies failed to align. They could not both recall the same details about the supposed encounter, and their lies were exposed for all to see. Their inability to provide consistent accounts revealed their malicious intent, and they were immediately struck down by the very justice they had sought to manipulate. The crowd, which had earlier gathered with a sense of inevitability regarding Susanna's death, now stood in shock and awe. What seemed like a foregone conclusion, a wrongful execution, had been overturned, and the truth had prevailed in the most dramatic of fashions. The elders, once respected members of the community, were now publicly disgraced, their lies revealed, and their fates sealed. Susanna was declared innocent, and the death sentence that had been placed upon her was lifted. But wait, there's more. Daniel's challenge to the king of Persia after the fall of Israel, and Daniel's rise to prominence in the courts of various rulers, the hero of our non-canon biblical narrative finds himself facing one of the most revealing and symbolic moments of his life. The king of Persia had long been a believer in the divine power of his idol, Bel, a deity worshipped in the royal court. The idol was thought to possess the extraordinary ability to consume offerings placed before it. The people believed that Bel not only received the food offerings presented to him, but also physically consumed them, leaving no trace behind. The king, convinced of the idol's power and its favor over the empire, commanded that regular sacrifices be made to Bel as a symbol of allegiance to the divine entity. However, Daniel, who had seen the destructive influence of idolatry in many forms, could not passively accept such deception. Daniel boldly declared that the idol Bel could not consume the offerings that were placed before it. He offered a daring proposal to prove the truth of his words. He suggested that the king place a sacrifice before the idol, just as was customary. But instead of simply accepting the idol's supposed divine power, Daniel challenged the king to leave the sacrifice in the temple overnight and return the next morning to see if any trace of it had been consumed by the idol. Daniel also insisted that the priests of the idol Bel secretly sneak away during the night and consume the offerings themselves. Of course, this was the actual test. He knew that it was the priests who actually consumed the offerings. All he had to do was to make sure that any consumed food could be traced back to them. The king, though initially hesitant, agreed to Daniel's challenge. Confident in the supernatural prowess of Bel, he allowed the test to proceed. Daniel scattered ashes or fine dust on the floor of the temple before the offerings were placed there. The Persian court, fully believing in the idol's power, watched eagerly as the night passed, awaiting a miraculous confirmation of Bel's divine ability to consume the offerings. During the night, the priests of Bel, along with their families, entered the temple through a secret door to consume the offerings, as they had always done. However, what they didn't realize was that their footprints would leave marks in the ashes. When morning came, the king and Daniel returned to the temple to inspect the offerings. The food appeared untouched because the priests had carefully resealed the secret entrance and made it look as if no one had entered. But Daniel pointed to the footprints in the ashes, proving that the priests, not the idol, had consumed the offerings. The priests, who had long enjoyed the wealth and privileges associated with maintaining the illusion of the idol's power, were now publicly disgraced. The king, humbled by the truth, acknowledged the futility of idol worship. The challenge also solidified Daniel's standing as a prophet and wise man in the court, further enhancing his reputation as one who is not only gifted in interpretation, but also fearless in confronting corruption and falsehood. Again, this finds no mention in the biblical canon. But there's even more, another book actually, that was left out. The story of Enoch. Despite its widespread influence in early religious thought, the Book of Enoch was excluded from the canonical Bible. This mysterious text, often attributed to the great patriarch Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, was considered too mystical and unorthodox by those who established the biblical canon. The Book of Enoch is part of a group of ancient writings known as the pseudepigrapha, or works attributed to biblical figures but not accepted as divinely inspired by religious authorities. The Book of Enoch, discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls in the mid-20th century, is divided into several sections that explore a range of themes, including cosmology, angelology, and prophecy. While it was not included in the canon, it was highly regarded by many early Jewish and Christian groups. In particular, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church still holds the Book of Enoch as canonical. So, what does it tell us? What was so unorthodox that it had to be censored? The Book of Enoch elaborates on how his journey to the divine realms unfolds. It is not simply that Enoch disappears, but rather he is taken up into the heavens, where he experiences a profound transformation and divine revelations. The text reveals that Enoch is granted access to the heavenly realms, where he encounters numerous angels, including the mighty archangels, cherubim, and seraphim. These beings, messengers of God, are tasked with maintaining cosmic order, fulfilling God's will, and overseeing the workings of the universe. These celestial beings share with him knowledge about the structure of the cosmos, the roles of the angels, and the future destiny of humankind. Through his visions and conversations with these divine beings, Enoch comes to understand the divine plan for creation, the workings of the heavens, and the ultimate judgment awaiting humanity. The Watchers, the Nephilim, and the Underworld. The Book of Enoch also details the fall of the Watchers, which are a group of angels who defied divine authority and descended to earth. The Watchers were celestial beings sent to guide humanity, but they instead succumbed to temptation and engaged in forbidden acts with human women, resulting in the birth of the Nephilim, or giant offspring who brought chaos and corruption to the earth. This rebellion is one of the central events in Enoch's journey, and it marks a dramatic shift in the cosmic balance. The Nephilim were not just physical giants, they were also symbols of the moral decay that spread across the earth. Their very existence was a manifestation of the disobedience of the fallen angels. As the Nephilim grew in size and strength, they began to impose their will upon the world, spreading violence, corruption, and chaos. These giants consumed the resources of the earth, oppressed humanity, and taught forbidden knowledge. The Watchers, too, imparted secret teachings to humanity, introducing them to sorcery, warfare, and other arcane practices. This widespread corruption led to the ultimate degradation of human society, as violence and sin became rampant. Enoch, however, was chosen by God to bear witness to the consequences of this rebellion. As part of his divine journey, Enoch is taken on a mystic path that leads him into the depths of the earth, where he enters the Underworld, or Sheol. This is the realm of the dead. This journey into the depths of existence serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of sin and rebellion, both in the heavenly and earthly realms. Here, Enoch witnessed the fate of the Watchers. These once proud angels, who had been granted the privilege of dwelling in the heavens, were now imprisoned in chains as punishment for their transgressions. In contrast, Enoch also witnesses the fate of the righteous and the wicked. The righteous are shown to be at peace, resting in a place of light and serenity, while the wicked are cast into dark, fiery pits. This separation between the righteous and the unrighteous is central to Enoch's understanding of divine justice. The journey into the underworld reveals that there is no escape from the consequences of one's actions, good or bad. The story of the book is no less dramatic than the story of Enoch himself. Historical background, rediscovery, and impact of the Forbidden Bible. The Book of Enoch was never accepted into the Jewish or Christian canonical texts. Early Christian and Jewish authorities, such as the rabbis and church fathers, rejected it due to its teachings on angels, cosmic order, and eschatology, which were deemed too speculative and not aligned with the theological and doctrinal purity that defined canonical scripture. The book's detailed accounts of the Watchers and the Nephilim, as well as its vivid depictions of the afterlife and divine judgment, stood in stark contrast to the more orthodox teachings that dominated religious circles at the time. The absence of the Book of Enoch from the canonical Jewish and Christian texts marked it as a controversial and apocryphal work. Its rejection by these authorities led to its relegation to the fringes of religious literature. However, it was largely forgotten by mainstream communities for centuries. Despite this, the text held a certain mystique and was preserved in obscure locations, particularly within Ethiopian Christianity, where it would remain influential but largely outside the reach of Western scholarship. The rediscovery of the Book of Enoch in the 18th century marked a watershed moment in the study of ancient religious texts. Western scholars, particularly those interested in comparative religion and the mysteries of the ancient world, began to gain access to the manuscript when the text was translated from Ethiopic into European languages. The rediscovery was sparked by the discovery of the complete text in an Ethiopian monastery, where it had been preserved by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. This allowed scholars to view the text in its entirety, as opposed to earlier, fragmented versions. The enthusiasm for the rediscovery of Enoch was part of the broader intellectual movement of the Enlightenment, which sought to explore and recover forgotten aspects of human history, knowledge, and spirituality. Scholars like Richard Lawrence, who translated the text into English, and other early 19th century academics, initiated serious studies into its language, structure, and theological implications. As the academic exploration deepened, the Book of Enoch gained recognition as a significant work that could offer insights into ancient Jewish eschatology, apocalyptic literature, and angelology. The renewed academic interest also prompted the publication of the text in multiple languages. This newfound scholarship explored the theological and cosmological aspects of the book, and the text's revelations about divine judgment, the fall of the angels, and the fate of the Nephilim sparked fascinating debates on the nature of good and evil, free will, and divine retribution. While the Book of Enoch gained scholarly attention, its acceptance and significance varied dramatically across different religious communities. In Christianity, the Book of Enoch has remained outside the canon for most denominations, although its influence on early Christian thought is undeniable. Many early Christian theologians, such as Tertullian and Origen, reference the text, suggesting that it had some level of prominence in the early church. However, it was eventually excluded from the canon due to its controversial ideas about angels and demons. In contrast, for the Ethiopian church, the book has maintained its sacred status for centuries, providing a window into early Jewish thought and offering a profound theological resource. The Book of Enoch also finds echoes in Islamic thought, especially concerning the figure of Enoch, known as Idris in the Quran. Idris is regarded as a prophet, and while his story is not identical to that of the biblical Enoch, many of the themes found in the Book of Enoch are paralleled in Islamic teachings. Some scholars see a direct connection between the Book of Enoch and certain Quranic doctrines. Beyond its impact on mainstream religions, the Book of Enoch has also had a significant influence on Western esotericism, particularly in traditions such as Rosicrucianism, Freemasonry, and occultism. The esoteric tradition has long drawn on the mystical elements of the Book of Enoch, particularly its descriptions of angelology, cosmic order, and the hidden knowledge imparted by divine beings. The portrayal of Enoch as a seer who ascends to heaven and gains access to the mysteries of the cosmos resonates deeply with esoteric beliefs about the pursuit of hidden wisdom and spiritual enlightenment. In Freemasonry, the figure of Enoch is often seen as a symbol of wisdom and knowledge, and the themes of the Book of Enoch have been incorporated into Masonic rituals and symbolism. The idea of divine revelation and the passing down of secret knowledge also appears in these esoteric traditions. In the 20th century, the rediscovery of two additional books of Enoch, the books of the Secrets of Enoch and the Hebrew Book of Enoch, further enriched our understanding of this complex tradition. These texts, like the first Book of Enoch, expand on the themes of divine revelation, angelology, and cosmic order. The discovery of these additional books has reignited interest in the Enochic tradition, and scholars are eager to explore the new insights they offer into the theological and historical context of ancient Jewish thought. The second Book of Enoch. In contrast to the first book, the second Book of Enoch, also known as the Slavonic Enoch or the Book of the Secrets of Enoch, focuses on angels and apocalyptic themes. The second book is primarily concerned with Enoch's ascension through the heavens, his encounters with divine beings, and the revelation of cosmic secrets. It begins with the extraordinary mystical experiences of Enoch, who is chosen by God to be elevated through the heavens and shown the divine secrets that govern creation. His journey begins as he is enveloped in light, an experience that marks the commencement of his ascension. As he moves through the various heavens, Enoch is granted celestial visions that unveil the hidden workings of the universe, including the fate of souls, divine retribution, and the roles of the angelic beings who serve the Almighty. Throughout his journey, Enoch encounters a series of heavenly realms, each more wondrous and awe-inspiring than the last, while also witnessing the consequences of moral choices and divine judgment. In the first heaven, he marvels at the harmony of angelic beings, praising God and overseeing the natural world's order, while the second heaven presents a darker vision of imprisoned watchers. The third heaven is a stark contrast, offering a vision of paradise where the righteous dwell in eternal peace, nourished by the sacred tree of life, symbolizing divine favor and immortality. The fourth heaven unveils the celestial mechanics of the universe, governed by angelic beings ensuring the balance of nature. The fifth heaven shifts to a somber tone, showing the severe punishment of rebellious watchers. Finally, the sixth heaven introduces the archangels, who are magnificent beings entrusted with executing God's will and preserving cosmic integrity. Enoch's encounters in these heavens emphasize the grandeur of divine order, the inevitability of justice, and the profound interconnectedness of creation. The second Book of Enoch vividly portrays the cosmic balance between divine reward and punishment, contrasting the beauty and peace of heaven for the righteous with the torment of hell for the wicked. Enoch's transformative journey through celestial realms reveals the moral and theological order governing the universe, emphasizing the consequences of ethical choices and divine judgment. Clothed in glory and entrusted with recording the secrets of heaven and earth, Enoch is charged with imparting divine wisdom to humanity. His teachings stress righteousness, compassion, and reverence for God, serving as a guide for future generations to prepare for judgment and live in harmony with divine will. The third Book of Enoch. The third Book of Enoch, also known as the Hebrew Book of Enoch, details the remarkable transformation of Enoch into the archangel Metatron, a central figure in mystical traditions and Jewish angelology. It begins with the ascension of Enoch, a righteous man chosen by God, into the heavenly realms. Unlike the first and second books of Enoch, which focus on Enoch's journey through the heavens, this book centers on his complete transformation into Metatron, the highest of the angels. This metamorphosis is described as a divine act of exaltation, where Enoch, a mortal man, is transformed into a being of immense power and authority. His transformation is marked by a change in his very essence, as he is elevated to a position where he becomes the celestial scribe and mediator for humanity. Once transformed, Metatron assumes his role as the supreme celestial scribe. In this capacity, he records the deeds of humanity, particularly the actions of Israel, and serves as a mediator between the divine and mortal realms. As the heavenly scribe, Metatron is entrusted with the task of preserving the divine secrets, writing down the fate of souls, and ensuring the proper execution of God's will in the world. He is also depicted as a figure of immense wisdom, capable of understanding the mysteries of the cosmos and interpreting the divine decrees. Metatron's role extends beyond Jewish mysticism. He holds significant meaning in various religious traditions. In Jewish Kabbalah, Metatron is regarded as a powerful angel who facilitates the transmission of divine knowledge. He is often seen as an intermediary between God and Israel, helping to relay God's messages to the people and guiding them toward righteousness. Metatron is considered the patron of the righteous and the protector of Israel. But if all of this information comes from non-canon literature, why does it even matter? Examining non-canonical texts can give us a more comprehensive understanding of the history of faith. These texts provide alternative perspectives, insights, and narratives that have been excluded from the mainstream religious canon. They are rich in theological, philosophical, and historical content. Plus, they offer glimpses into the beliefs, struggles, and debates of early religious communities. By exploring these works, we not only challenge established dogmas, but also recognize the diversity of thought that existed in ancient times, which shaped the religious landscape we know today. The absence of certain texts, such as those found in the Book of Enoch, from the canonical Bible, has left gaps in our understanding of spiritual concepts, divine hierarchy, and even human origins. In an alternate universe, had the canonization process unfolded differently, Christianity could have been a profoundly distinct religion. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Did you like this video? If you did, please consider liking, dropping a comment, and hitting the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on our new uploads. Also, don't miss this video you see on your screen right now. It's truly unbelievable.